the side, ref.
Welcome back to In From The Side, another week, another show. I'm here with my co-host and partner in crime, Matthew Rhodes. How's it, Matt?
G'day, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, buddy. Good Monday?
Yeah, it's been a good Monday, good day. Every day above ground is a good day. And we had a really good weekend. So
we had a great weekend. The parts I could remember.
Can't complain. We had a lovely rugby outing, both with the Lions, first at mine and then the return fixture at yours for the rest of the rugby in the afternoon, sponsored by beautiful South African vet cook.
And brandy.
And brandewijn for the pain.
We're going to get to the weekend's rugby a little bit later in our second show, Matt. This is exciting. This is the last position that we're picking on our Mount Rushmore series. We've gone from 1 to 14 pretty much, and we're leaving the hookers to last. Leave the best to last. So I think we just need to jump straight into it.
Sure.
I think this might not be the last show. We did say we're going to do all-time greatest versatile players and all-time greatest coaches.
Yeah, so we've got 2 shows left to film in this particular series. It's been fun, and kind of leading towards the end of it, as I say, picking the last in our 1 to 15 man today, and we left the best for last. Hookers. I started off at hooker, ended up at 12. Now I'm back to looking like a hooker, so
nice.
Happy days.
Okay, who's first on your Mount Rushmore? Who did you pick?
It's got to be Mr. New Zealand himself, Sean Fitzpatrick.
Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, so he was, in essence, especially when I was growing up, the pioneer captain. He was the captain of the All Blacks in the 87 World Cup when they won it. He's got so many accolades, which we'll get to now. But I think for me, when I was growing up and seeing, a hooker, he embodied that leadership role, but the hooker position, he owned it through and through. So I think he then put like that role for so many others, but he put it on the map.
It was a really difficult one for me because as a South African, we love to hate Sean Fitzpatrick. Like when I watched him play in the 90s, they beat us in South Africa in 96. That still stings. Hopefully we rectify that next year. But we couldn't stand him as a player. But looking back now, I have to agree with you. He's got to be on Mount Rushmore. And I put him up there as well. And it wouldn't be a show, Matt, if I don't correct a stat at least once.
Go on.
He wasn't captain in the 87 World Cup.
Was he not?
No, he was captain in 95. That's the only World Cup that he was captain in. So tell ChatGPT to update the algorithm. David Kirk was captain in 87.
Fair enough. That is true.
But Fitzy, he sort of came onto the scene in 87 after that Cavaliers tour in 86.
He was definitely part of that team.
Andy Dalton was always the number one hooker, and then he broke a jaw against Burger Geldenhuys fist. And then he got injured in 87, and that was sort of the end of his career, and that opened the door for Fitzy to come through. And I think for 11 seasons, from 87 to 97, he was the number one choice. I mean, there was never really an opportunity for the Norm Hewitts and the Warren Gatlins to get into the All Blacks side because he just owned that jersey. Unfortunate not to get to a century.
Yeah, I think
close. He stopped at 92 caps,
92 caps,
something like that.
92 caps, 12 tries.
Yeah.
He, as I say, many accolades. Bledisloe Cup winner. He was also Super Rugby winner with the Blues in 96, 97. Auckland NPC champion. Sure, the Blues had 87, 88, 89, 90, 93, 94, 95, 96. Ran Freely Shield winners as well in 95 and 96. British and Irish Lions victory.
In 93.
In 93. Yeah. And he had the international record for most consecutive test matches. He had 63 successive test matches between 1986 and 96.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah.
No, unbelievable player. I'm a big fan looking back now. Again, when he played, he got under our skin, but he knew how to influence refs, which is a good job of a good captain.
Yeah.
George Gregan used to do it. He was, Fitzy was really good at it. So he got under our skin. But in terms of what he's achieved, I mean, apart from captaining them to a World Cup, obviously he's won the World Cup. But he said that 96 series win against the Springboks is better than winning a World Cup because a World Cup only happens once every 4 years. That series happens once in a lifetime. And I have this vivid memory. Loftus Versfeld, Springboks on attack, ready to win the game. All Blacks kill the ball. The ref blows the final whistle and Fitzy just punches the ground. And you can just see the elation in his face. So great player, great captain, one of the all-time greatest All Black captains, I think, just behind Richie McCaw, possibly. But he's right up there.
And
Great
what he's done for rugby since, and being part of the game from a TV punditry and from an analytical standpoint, and the kind of views and opinions that he's given and he's shared. You know, rugby, again, the guys that you were talking about, Gregan and the likes, they embody rugby, and he definitely does that himself.
Absolutely, and he's part of the Laureus Academy as well. So he does a lot for rugby outside of the game, right?
He was also inducted into International Rugby Hall of Fame in 2014 as well. So for me, when looking at it and looking at the stats, the accolades, and again, I know what you're saying around how he got under your skin, but again, I think that was his job. He needed to be in the ref's ear. He was formidable as a front row forward. He led from the line, you know, from the front, and all those players, you know, followed him into battle. And I think now, since many years after, you can see and appreciate that kind of niggle that he had.
No, I do.
You know, it was by design, not by chance.
I'm an old man now. I can appreciate that.
So again, he had many Bledisloe Cup challenges and sort of dust-ups with Phil Kearnsey, who was also an amazing player in his own right. And I think on the field at the time, both of them captains, you know, one of New Zealand, one of Australia, they'd get into it often. And then yet now, you know, as is the case, years after, they're really good mates and TV pundits afterwards. So I think, you know, what happens on the field stays on the field. And years later, we can appreciate how good he is, and that's why he's on the
absolutely.
He's on the mountain.
There was a very famous incident between him and Phil Kearns. Phil Kearns was just starting out, I think, in '89 or '90 with the Wallabies, and Fitzy was just in his ear the whole time in a Bledisloe Club game, like telling him how shit he is. He doesn't belong in international rugby, like really giving him gas. And then Phil Kearns scored a try in that game, and he was just like in Fitzpatrick's face. You know, giving him some stick back, a very vivid memory again. But they had a great rivalry
for sure.
in the early 90s.
And those Bledisloe Cup games back then were pretty even, Stephen. They were, you know, they were a proper challenge. They haven't been that way for quite a few years now. New Zealand have had Australia's number in that sense, but back then it was a proper.
It was a toss-up.
It was a proper cup. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Who's next?
Another captain. The raging potato. I couldn't leave him off my mountain. So Keith Wood gets my nomination for number 2.
Okay, nice one.
So a trailblazer with the ball in hand. He was a force of the breakdown and in the loose. We've talked about how he could kick. He also had a good pass in him, and you know, he scored plenty. So I think at the time, and we've covered him in previous shows. He redefined the hooker position and the kind of agility that a hooker comes with. And some of his plays were audacious, to say the least. And so, for me, again, his nicknames were either the Raging Potato or Uncle Fester because of his bald head and what he looked like, alongside the character from the Addams Family. But imagine him with ball in hand, you know, charging towards you like a raging bull. It'd be a formidable sight. So, fair play. He had to go up on my mountain.
So, what's the chances of us agreeing 4 from 4 2 weeks in a row?
I don't know.
This is an obvious one. You know, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, you are a massive fan.
Keith Wood's got to be up there. He's on my Mount Rushmore as well. Yeah, everything you said, mate. Just an absolute legend of the game. I mean, Ireland has produced some great hookers and front rowers over the years, and he's top of the pile. When I think of him, I just think dynamic.
Yeah.
Like as a ball carrier, he never took a step back. I think he really created his legend and cemented his legend on that 97 Lions tour.
Yeah.
Like he was immense, mate. He was at the forefront of that pack who, against a very, very strong South African side, those Lions pitched up and they gave us a hiding. You know, again, it's very difficult to admit 30 years later, but they did. They outplayed us. And he was right at the forefront with Tim Rodburn, Delalio and Richard Hill and these guys. But no, he scored some fantastic tries, not just the chip and chase and all these flamboyant tries that he would score, just as a proper ball carrier. It was a great try he scored against England in the Five Nations in 2001, I think. We just ran around the line out and ran over 2 Englishmen to score. Ireland won that game, very famously denying England a grand slam. So he was someone for the big game, you know, and it's unfortunate that he ended his career on a low. You know, they got smashed by France in the 2003 World Cup quarterfinal. But apart from that, again, he had a lot of success, and he was part of that team that took an average Ireland side and really made them competitors with Brian O'Driscoll and Paul O'Connell and those guys coming through as junior. So he was really integral to, I think, 25 years ago, to Ireland being the team that they are today.
And a lot of that, I think, came down to his leadership as well. And obviously, O'Driscoll took over that leadership when he retired.
Yeah.
And so you kind of set the expectations and the foundations, and you set it up for success around those leadership principles. And he was very, as you say, integral to setting that up. But 15 international tries. So at his retirement, that was a record for a hooker. 15 tries. Indeed,
that's very impressive.
Indeed, any player in the tight five, I think at the time, the previous record for international tries by a hooker or by players at any position in the tight five was 12 tries, and that was held by Sean Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
So again, very good. Both of them cut from a similar cloth. Very good leaders. Very dynamic, led from the front. Never took a step back. And I've talked about it before, but one of the endearing images I have in my mind whenever I think of Keith Wood is playing for Ireland. We've talked about it before, so if you watched it, forgive me. But there's a line out. The linesman's got his flag up. He picks up the ball to throw the ball in. The camera comes right up to as they used to do, right up to get as close as they can. And the linesman taps Keith on the shoulder, and he just turns to the linesman, not knowing that the camera is literally there staring at him. And he goes, "Don't fucking touch me." And it was that like audacity and that kind of that big character that I loved so much about him. And take nothing away, he had silky skills. He was quick. He was good with ball in hand. But as you say, some of those chips and some of those tries that he scored were
only Keith Wood could have pulled.
They were outrageous.
I love it, man. I love it. He was 2 from 2. Yeah.
He was also inducted into the International Rugby Hall of Fame.
Well deserved.
In 2014, alongside Sean Fitzpatrick. So 2 from 2. Who'd you go number 3? Let's see if we differ.
Well, talking about try-scoring hookers, I had to get this one up here, and also because I want to score brownie points with your wife, because I had to pick her favourite player, which is common knowledge on this channel. It's got to be Malcolm Marx. I put him up there. I think I had to think about this one because he's a current player, and it's always difficult including current players in lists like this or in discussions like this. But if I think back to when he came onto the scene, 2016, 2017, he was still playing for the Lions. He was, as good as he is today, he was twice the player back then. He was unbelievable at the breakdown. So solid in set piece. Strong ball carrier for a guy who's not as big as a John Smith or a Bismarck or a Keith Wood. He was just dynamic, and again scored, I think, 22 tries now.
I think it's 23.
23 now, yeah. Because
115 points in 78 caps.
Yeah.
So he's the breakdown beast. But I mean, those tries. And again, a lot of people argue that the tries that he scores is as a consequence of the kind of line out maul and pushover. But he's still got to throw the ball in. He's still got to make sure that he does the set piece right.
You can only maul well if you're accurate at the set piece.
Correct.
And he's been, and again, we saw it on the weekend with Bongi struggling with his lineouts, Jan-Hendrik Wessels struggling against Italy with his lineouts. It's like Malcolm's always been fairly consistent. There's been a season or two where he's had his ups and downs, but just talk about consistency. For over a decade, he has always been part of the Springbok squad. He's been consistently one of the best players. If it wasn't for injuring his neck, he would have been a double World Cup winner and played in the final. Doesn't
he still get?
He still gets the medal, but he
got the
didn't
medal.
play at the end. But
No,
he still
didn't,
got
but
the medal.
He's still a World Cup winner in that sense.
Yeah.
Look, mate, I'm so chuffed that you nominate him because I haven't,
Ooh.
and that's not because of anything to do with how he's on my wife's laminated list and probably the top of that. But he is a breakdown beast. He is a modern day Colossus. He is one of my favorite players of all time. I love the technical capabilities he has of getting everything right from a hooker perspective, but his ability and agility to get around the park as he does, which makes him so great at the breakdown. The amount of turnovers that we get.
Unreal.
Off
It's
the
like
back
an
end.
extra Lucy.
the jackling that he does is sensational. But yeah, I didn't go with our wee man Malcolm. Instead, I went with one of the other guys that you mentioned, and for me, it had to be John Smith.
I knew you were going to pick him.
Of course, because I've been talking about him for 3 other episodes leading up
You
to
didn't
this.
pick him at tight head, you didn't pick him at loose head, so you had to pick him at hooker.
13 caps at prop, or at least that we shifted to. But John Smith, I mean, what can you say about the man? He is a true captain, a massive servant of South African rugby. He led from the front as the Springboks lifted the 2007 Rugby World Cup. So 111 caps, 8 tries. He's one of only 8 people to wear the Springbok jersey 100 times or more. 2007 Rugby World Cup winner, as I said. Tri-Nations in 2004 and 2009. He was the most capped South African player and the most Bok captain at the time of his retirement.
Yeah.
Between October 2003 and June 2007, John Smith played in a record 46 consecutive test matches.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. He also played for the Sharks from 1998 to 2011. Obviously, I'm a massive Sharks fan, so pulled at the heartstrings there. But he led the Springboks to victory in 46 of the 64 games that he captained, with a win percentage of 72%, including, as I say, the Tri-Nations and the World Cup. And John Smith was inducted into the International Rugby Hall of Fame in 2011. A good year for South Africans,
Not
actually.
a bad year, yeah.
Yeah, that year we had Kitch Christie, Francois Pienaar, and our good mate Jake White, all inducted that year.
And if Bryce Lawrence didn't exist, we might have had another World Cup. Who knows?
Who knows? But for me, John Smith is this formidable character that, you hear about Victor Matfield and Bucky's talk about their past experiences and how he is, he's referred to as Cappy. He was a captain in stature, in legend, and he led from the front in the way that he played. We had a conversation offline over the weekend about, leading up to the show, who were the best hookers of all time. And a couple of the names that we've talked about already, we said. And John maybe wasn't as technically sound as some of these other guys, but his stature and what he did for the game in South Africa and what he did for the Bokke and what he did for at least Sharks Rugby afterwards as well. He was their CEO for many years, I think.
Yeah, for a couple of years.
For a couple of years.
Yeah.
But 2007 Rugby World Cup winner, IRB Hall of Famer. He's on
Tri-Nations in 04, Tri-Nations in 09, British and Irish Lions Series winner.
Yeah.
He's done all of it.
He's done it all.
Could have won a Super Rugby trophy if it wasn't for Brian Abana. But
You're an asshole for bringing that up.
I'm giving him credit. I'm saying he could have had.
I'm literally
was
talking
so
about.
unlucky.
I'm literally talking about one of my heroes and why he's up on my mountain, and you got to bring in some bull's cuck.
It's history, mate. I didn't write it. I
Anyway.
didn't write history. I'm just telling the story.
Anyway, John Smith he's a legend and he's up on my wall.
He deserves to be there. Like, for me, it was really difficult. He's on my shortlist. We're going to get to the shortlist now. He's an absolute legend.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know why, for me, I looked at the players that I could pick from, specifically from South Africa, and I just think technically, in terms of impact that they made on the field, I really just looked at the player, and I think Malcolm's maybe a better player than John was. But captaincy counts for a lot, right? And I think a lot of the success that we had specifically under Jake White came down to the captaincy of John Smith. And like Sia, John knew how to depend on his senior players. Like he knew Frida Priya, Victor Matfield, these guys had a role to play within that team, and he wasn't just a lone man. And I think that's great leadership. And I think people underrate his skill set. There's some highlights of him catching balls with one hand. And
Mate, that pickup, and hopefully you showed that pickup. Oh, unbelievable.
It was beautiful. So he definitely had skill. I just think his career came at a time where people felt Skalk Brits and Gary Botha were probably better players, and maybe a lot of people outside of Durban felt those guys should have got a look in. I was one of them, to be very honest. But looking back now, he's achieved so much. He looks like one of the nicest guys off the field. Like, just loves telling stories about his players. He's a rugby man through and through.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue about the stat of him making his debut for the Sharks in 1998, because he made his debut for the Coastal Sharks, the Super 12 team. But fun fact, he played his very first test at 19 against the British and Irish Lions in 1997. He scrummed against Jason Leonard. He came on as a sub in that game, and I think he was just fresh out of high school. So unbelievable
Pretoria
story.
boys, eh?
Pretoria boys with who? Who else went to Pretoria boys?
There's a few.
Chili boy.
Chili boy Radapele.
Yeah, he was practicing saying Chili boy
a couple of
before the
names.
show.
Mate, I was going through the list of South African hookers, and obviously my mate Simon, who's in with the Bulls, and Chili boy were good mates for many years. So there's a few stories around him, but he's just a good name to say. He was a good boy, good lad, good player.
Pretoria boys are
not,
old boys.
Not quite on the Mount Rushmore.
No, definitely not. But I can't argue with John Smith. He deserves to be up there
for sure. And if you look at the three on my list, on my mount so far, all of them captains, all of them outstanding in their own right, all leaders from the front. And so I've gone with a bit of a theme in that sense.
Okay.
Right.
Who rounds out your theme?
Rounds out my theme.
Well,
Well,
it's going to be interesting.
yeah, there was a couple, but I've broken with my theme. And the other name that you mentioned, I couldn't, there were a few names that I was looking at, and for me, a couple, Ledesma, Creevy, good names, Roy Best, which we'll get to, some of these, but for me, it had to be Bismarck du Plessis.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Get in there, boy.
Busy, named after what, a tank?
Yep.
And
German tank.
A German tank, and a tank by every sense of the word. He was just the most awesome player to watch, both in the Sharks jersey and obviously for the Springboks. Not as many caps, 79 caps, 11 tries, but we talk about Malcolm Marx being this kind of power and formidable presence at the breakdown and winning breakdown penalties and doing that jackling. That was, to me, the first time I really saw anyone do it from a hooker perspective was Busy.
Bismarck was the blueprint.
He was the blueprint for that, and he was an outstanding scrummager. He had sensational. He was sensational at the set piece. He could give away a few penalties here and there himself, but the amount of penalties he won you, and the turn of a ball that he would get, he was just an immovable object for so long, and I loved him. And so for me, again, I've gone two Sharks, two hookers, but John Smith first and then Bismarck after.
I totally agree with you. I think it's no surprise there by my reaction. No, Busy's got to be up there, mate.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, out of that list, it's probably between him and Keith Wood for me for the greatest hookers of all time. He only recently retired after coming back and playing for the Bulls, so I think he's still relatively fresh in people's memories. I don't think people remember how good Bismarck was.
Yeah.
He was an absolute monster in the front row. How good was he that we actually converted our captain and hooker, the guy who led that team, to tight head to make space for Bismarck.
Yeah.
At some point, they just realized we can't play without him.
Can't leave him off. Yeah.
He's got to be in the team. And I actually think we missed the trick in 2011 when John Smith reverted back to hooker and Bismarck went back to the bench. I think if John Smith continued seeing out his career at tight head and have Bismarck just solidify and own that jersey, maybe things could have turned out differently for that side. But in 2009, when they went with that mix with Busy at hooker and John Smith at tight head, we were awesome, mate. Great
unbelievable.
Team.
Yeah.
And like you say, I think Malcolm Marx plays the way he plays today, of the blueprint that a guy like Bismarck sort of created. Yes, there was other hookers that could fetch, but not as consistently and accurately as Bismarck and Malcolm. I think they've been the best in the game that we've seen ever.
If he got over the ball, like you said, there were Lucy's that we've talked about. Stelkberger was an immovable object over it. Brissot was outstanding. Dwayne Vermeulen, these guys were just immovable objects, right? But if the ball, if there was a tackle made and the ball went to ground, and Busy was anywhere near it, and he was over the ball, it was a penalty.
Yeah,
it was coming our way, or he would get it out of the hands, and it would be a turnover, and we'd be in the ascendancy. So, I think, like you say, I think there were opportunities where he could have got a few more caps under his belt.
Yeah,
and maybe that would have improved his equity probably in the eyes of other people who have these conversations around who the best in the world, but. For me, if I had the choice, and I looked at all the rest of them, and this is what it came down to. So I had good names, good numbers, Honourable mentions from a South African standpoint. Bongi Manambi, obviously 78 caps, 70 points, 14 tries. Again, a lot of those from the back, mauling, if he can get his line out going well. James Dalton, Adrian Strauss for New Zealand, one that really, many people talking about Dane Coles, but for me, and I've talked about him before, he was on my New Zealand selection, Kevin Mialamu.
Absolutely.
Absolute champion.
I swapped him a couple of times with Malcolm Marx. Like, it was a touch and go between them.
Kevin Mialamu,
130
caps. Anyone who wears the All Black jersey 132 times is, he's outstanding.
Absolute legend.
We talked about it, Mario Ledesma and Augustin Creevy, many of the kind of platforms that I was looking into, saying that Mario Ledesma's up there, top five.
Great player.
And then Rory Best. I was hoping to make a little play on words. This is the last, but not saving the best for last. Rory Best didn't work out.
So cheesy.
Yeah, so cheesy. But again, 124 caps. Rafael Ibanez for France.
Yeah, great player. A lot of people will say he deserves to be up there.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, he's probably the best French hooker we've seen.
For sure. Philly Kearns, we talked about 67 caps. Says he scored 34 points, but I don't understand how he scored 34
because
points.
he played in an age where tries still counted 4 points.
Okay.
It's pre-1992.
When things were still in black and white. So Phil Kearns in black and white. For England, Brian Moore, Steve Thompson, Jamie George, who's still playing. These are guys that are up there. And then for Italy, Leonardo Giordini as well.
Yeah.
He was formidable, 107 caps. But when you take Busy against all of those names that I'd pick him over all of them any day.
No, absolutely. No, I'm happy with that. 3 out of 4. Just a couple of the other names that maybe we didn't speak about that I had on my list that just missed out. Creevy, we spoke about. Phil Kearns, Stephen Moore.
Yeah.
I think he's up there as one of the greatest Aussie hookers of all time. We spoke about Ibanez,
The Shark.
Mialamu. Dane Coles we spoke about. John Smith just missed out. I need to take 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes, man. Indulge me to talk about Uli Schmidt.
I knew you were going to.
He's,
I thought he was going to be your first on the list, actually.
He was. As a personal favorite, he's above all of these guys. Like, he's a hero of mine. Played for Northern Transvaal, Springbok legend. I have to show this, not because somebody on the channel requested it, but he scored the best try by a hooker ever against the New Zealand Cavaliers in 1986. Right? He ran like a winger. Uli was a smallish guy compared to other front rowers, but geez, he was strong, exceptionally quick, scored a lot of tries, great at the set piece, great scrummager, super strong, ran the comrades a couple of times, super fit. It's just a shame that he never got the opportunity, like a Donnie Gerber, like a Nas Botha, like a Ray Mort. He never really got the opportunity to show the world how good he was. And he only really got an opportunity towards the end of his career. Like, if he played 50 tests in the 80s, no one would argue with him being on this list. He was that good. But, I put my personal biases to one side, admittedly. I think it's very difficult to include him in that list if he hardly played. I think he got about 10 tests in his entire career. But as a domestic hero in South Africa, playing local rugby, Currie Cup, Lion Cup, he scored a hat-trick against Natal in the Lion Cup final in 1991. Like, he was just a machine. I loved Uli. There's songs written about him. If you ever heard Uli Bully, this song, it's a great tune. But I had to make mention of Uli Schmidt. He's a bit of a hero. Bongi was spoken about.
You and many people in South Africa hold him in such high regard.
Fantastic player. Absolutely fantastic player. Go and check out the Uli Schmidt tribute we did on the Real Rugby channel. It's great viewing. Crack open a beer and have a look. Federico Mendes played for the Sharks in Argentina. Also famously knocked out Paul Ackford in his debut as an 18-year-old. Great hooker. Ledesma we spoke about. Tommy Lawton, another player who played for the Natal Sharks in the early 90s, Australian hooker. Tatafu Polita. Now I had up there Brian Moore, we spoke about, Steve Thompson. Some other English names, Peter Wheeler, John Pullen. They're all legends within the English circles. Peter Movaka, current French hooker.
We talked about him. He got left behind on this current.
When he retires, I think he'll be part of the convo.
Again, I think he's a little bit more dynamic with ball in the hand than, say, a Malcolm Marx.
Yeah.
Malcolm is big, hefty. He's got a good fend. He can make some yards. Peter Mavaka, with the ball in hand, looks like a backline player.
Unbelievable.
He looks like a backline player.
Love him.
So he's got a lot of agility. And like you say, when he if he stays injury-free and
Yeah.
gets to the end, we'll be talking about him in similar shows.
Yeah, looking at the list, France has produced some great hookers, mate. Guillaume Curado, Dimitri Swazewski.
Yeah, so that's
He was great. William Servat.
Great hair too.
Philip Dintron. He was great. Rory Best we spoke about. Colin Deans from Scotland. Gordon Bullock. Ross Ford. All Scottish hookers. All decent. 2 more South Africans out of yesteryear. Piston van Wyk and Jan Lotz.
anyone who's named Piston.
He was hard as nails. And he could bliksem you in
I'm sure.
a match like he was really...
sure.
No, he was great. Jan Lotz was great. Bobby Windsor, part of that famous Pontypool front row. Ken Owens, Richard Hibbard, and Bryn Meredith.
Ken Owens was
All Welsh legends. Yeah, Ken Owens was great. He was awesome.
Yeah.
So many names to pick from, Matt, but we agreed 3 out of 4. It's going to be
Yeah.
interesting to see what the people out there in YouTube land say.
Yeah, I picked 3 captains and one tank. So
One tank.
yeah.
Bismarck captained the Bulls a couple of times.
he did,
he's
he
a
did.
captain as well.
No, he was a leader in his actions, maybe not by title, for most of his career, but
Yeah.
him and his brother, what a formidable. It'll be an interesting show. Maybe this is something that we do in the future, looking at rugby dynasties, families, brothers that play. They'd be up there.
The Barretts and 3 others.
The Barretts, no, but like there's obviously the Brook brothers from New Zealand, and if we get into it, the
2 sets of Duplessis brothers
the
for South
Duplessis,
Africa.
yeah, exactly. So
That's actually an interesting video. Maybe.
Nice.
We'll see if we fit it in.
we'll be interested to hear your thoughts. As always, bring us your comments. We love to hear what you have to think and say. Where did we go wrong? What would you do instead? Bring us your suggestions. Who do we forget?
Yeah, remember to give us a like and a subscribe. Click the little notification button at the bottom of the video. Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all the social medias. We'll do this again next week. Cheers.
Cheers.